What's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. I believe that a hard day's work is worth a hard day's pay. I believe in the Lord above. We should walk his walk and I'll share his love instead of marching to the beat of the devil's parade. I will not be broken. I won't stand around and trust some bleeding heart. It's time we all stood up, be outspoken. Bring it on, I don't care who you are. I won't be broken.
Well, welcome you all. I'm trying to get this turned off right here, and so we can see our lovely guest, Christie Hutcherson. Christie, how are you doing tonight? I'm going to turn that volume down a little bit more. Sorry.
I kind of like that song. Good
It
stuff
is.
right there, Terry.
So that song is written by a dear friend of mine, Clint Moody, the Clint Moody Band, and he opened up for Toby Keith a couple times. He's a great guy. He's given us the rights to that song, and I Will Not Be Broken. And the name of the song is Broken, but the song says I will not be broken, and I love it. And Clint Moody, if you're listening, we love you for that. We always try to give him a plug, Clint Moody Band. And but man, we're so glad. And well, just a little housekeeping first. Tonight we don't have Bo Carver will not be on tonight. He is a little under the weather, and Rob Jones, speed racer, will not be on. Also, he is traveling to a funeral for his mother, and so we want to keep him in our prayers for sure. And then and Bo, we want to keep him in our prayers as well. He's been struggling. He had some cancer scares a year or so ago, and little new scare about that again. He kind of has just needed some time. He might be taking a sabbatical, and we talked about that for a little bit before the meeting. You and I did, Christie, about the need for just taking time and having balance and all those things too. So welcome, Christie. How are you?
Busy, busy, busy. There's a lot going on in America and in the world. It's interesting because I was listening to the brief words to your friend, the Moody Band song, and
Moody.
we have to understand, and I think it's really important. We won't be broken. I love that. I believe in a hard day's wage for a hard day's work. And I think Americans have forgotten about that, working hard and sometimes to the finger, to the bones. I come from an old school family. My father was in the construction industry. My mom was a school bus driver. My dad's from Kentucky. And, we actually literally had a garden. We grew our own vegetables. We had a cow in the field, and my daddy taught me how to hunt and fish, like I believe every good daddy out there should. Amen. And, self-sufficiency. But you know what? You also stand by your neighbors and your friends and your family, and you take that call up, right? Even if it's in the middle of the night, when it's inconvenient, you rise to the occasion. And it's hard, but it won't break us.
No,
the left theory wants us to do. They want to break us. They want to wear us down.
Yeah, that's what you had mentioned when we were talking, is that's exactly what their game plan is. Continue to push this bullshit on us, continue to push this crazy upside down, totally wrong. And we all see it. It's like the emperor's new clothes. We're like, hey, that dude's naked. And everybody said, no, he's not. He's got clothes on. No, he's naked. We know that guy is the emperor's new clothes. And so they're wanting to put in, at some point, people are just going to go, you know what, I give up, or the younger kids that have been indoctrinated since, elementary school, they've been brought up in a woke generation and a woke culture, and it's going to be too late for us to pull them back from the edge, so we got to continue to do this. So this is why you and I have been doing this for these years. When we met, a few years ago, and been watching you just continue to fight, and I know you've been watching me, and it's been great. So Christie Hutcherson is the president, CEO, founder of WFFA, Women Fighting for America. And what a better time to have talked to you right now with everything that's going on in our country. And I know you've got a lot of different things that you work and stand up against and are an activist for, sex trafficking, women's rights, all these things. But let's just jump into this real quick. Let's talk, because I know one of your main issues is the border issues and what's happening down there. So talk to me about a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some of these other issues I talked to you about later. What's going on down there? What have you seen? I know you've been deep further past the borders. Tell us what's going on down there, Christie.
Well, really, it's national. My background is military and military strategy. I don't know if most of your listeners know that. I'm a defense contractor, at the highest levels. Very high clearances our company had, and we were contracted and are contracted by our federal government, the DHS, Homeland Security, the DLA, the DOD, help with troop drawdown in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've been there, done that, checked those boxes. And so national security is a big thing for me, obviously, and domestic security. The borders are open for a reason, Terry. It's just really that simple. It's part of the plan. I actually wrote several articles just recently, high-level briefings. Actually, they're kind of a deep dive and a high-level overview. They're on my LinkedIn profile, and it talks about the silent coup that's been going on, including all of this correlates to the coronation even of Kamala Harris and the puppet of China, Waltz. And it's very important to understand that the borders are the conduit that they're using to basically, with the baseball bat, bring America to her knees, whether it's allowing terrorists to take root in our nation and our country. So when the order is given, they will be very soon terrorist attacks on our soil. The influx of military-age men at an unprecedented rate to take up arms against the armed legal citizens. Also, they're going to utilize those men for military to swear them in. They're currently right now trying to get this passed in Congress. And make no mistake, America, if you don't physically show up and stop being lazy and casting a mail-in ballot, and you actually get off your sofa and actually go into the polls and actually vote in person, which you need to do, they're going to take the House and the Senate. They may allow, there's a scenario, I've put out a couple scenarios about how Trump possibly they'd allow them back in. If they take the House and the Senate, your life as you know it is over with, right? They're going to allow them to be military. Already there's 4 states, Terry, that allow the illegals to be legal, lawful police officers.
Minnesota being one of them. My home state pisses me off to no end. Yeah. And let me ask you this real quick. So I've seen the articles, and first of all, where can we go find these statements that you put out there at?
Well, you kind of have to find me on my professional on LinkedIn. I hate sending people because I don't like to cross-pollinate my worlds. But I will, you know what, let me do this. I will have my team put up my articles on Women Fighting for America's website, WFFA.win. And I'm going to start a Substack. My team's been wanting me to do this. I do very high-level, deep dive briefings. These are serious briefings that you would expect to get from a high-ranking official.
Yes, exactly.
And they've at Capital Times Magazine puts them out. I write for Capital Times Magazine. So you can also see my articles. I did almost 8-9 months ago, almost a year ago, I guess. I literally laid out in Capital Times Magazine what was going to happen and what you're seeing now with Iran and China and Russia and Israel. So there's a lot of foretelling in my articles and my briefings. So you need to get a hold of those. Before we move on to women's issues, because those are very important things, I want all of your listeners out there, even if you already have them, you need to go buy more. You need to go buy guns, and you need to buy a lot of bullets. You do.
Wait a sec, we're going to get banned off of Facebook for this. No, but I love it. Come on, sister.
Well, you know what? Why would you get banned to uphold your constitutional right?
Believe me, yeah.
Why would they be so afraid? Because we actually need to do that. We have the right to defend and protect ours. It is our natural given right by the founding fathers. Right. And the other thing that's really important is you need to have a very strategic plan. In the military, there's no I in team. We have, even in small units, they win because there's a strategy. And we have a plan A, B, C, and D. When things go awry, when the first plan fails, we don't really call it failure because we now have a backup plan and everybody has their backs. Yeah. And one thing that America doesn't do, and I remember this started in the 90s, Terry, if you remember, you remember how in the 70s and 80s, I'm aging myself, we were in community with our fellow neighbors. I would ride my big wheel down the street
We knew
and
there was no fences in the neighborhood I grew up in. There was no fences. You
and
just
now
there are yeah.
yeah, and they don't want that. In the 90s, it started where everybody started kind of doing their own thing, not socializing with their brothers and neighbors down the road. We have got to get back to that. And you have to be in like-minded community with people who think like you and believe like you. Stop trying to turn somebody else's opinion. Oh, you're not going to do that. I'm not saying don't completely quit, but the people that you need to have in your inner circle, that's going to be your Calvary. You've got to be in community with those people and you have to have a plan. And finally, really quick, from a security perspective, everybody needs to have the same type of bullets and the same kind of guns, because if y'all have different stuff and one runs out, you got to be able to pick up that weapon and be able to put those bullets in there and have them match. Most people don't do that either.
My blackout 300 doesn't fit that scenario.
Does not fit that bill.
But it's fun. And listen, I wanted to tell you too. So just because you're talking about this, so at the American Patriot Relief, American Patriot Relief, that's my baby. That's what we're doing for the J6ers. And we are trying to organize that. And we've had this guy come on board with this. He's ex-Navy, worked on aircraft carriers. His name is Rick Percoco. And Rick, I love you if you're listening. Rick is ex-Navy. He came to us with American Patriot League. He says, listen, we need to help organize, the community, the conservative community. We need to have, just like Antifa is organized, just like the left is organized, because they're like little minions. They're like little soldiers. They're just, and they're just going, right? And we're out here, we're just like, hey, we're going to wing it. Because we're independent conservatives, right? But yet we do need to learn to work together better as a conservative population, because that's where they kill us, man. They've got, and what Rick has done, he brought to us at American Patriot, is we're setting up. We talked about this before about getting burned out in the movement, because you work so hard. And Rick said, look, you need to have days off. You need to have, and when you're off, who's going to cover when you're off? You got to have that infrastructure set up. And so we've been, for a year now, we've been setting up an infrastructure through APR that we think could, go out and we could show it to other teams and other groups and let them use that for themselves too. Because last week I had to take the week off last week. Now I did come on the show last week, but I was so burned out. I needed some time off, and, I came back fully recharged, and we need to do that, but yet we can't stop fighting. And we've got here Ann Gamora Lake saying, fight, fight, fight,
God gave us our roadmap that we refuse, of course, to follow. The day of rest is Sunday. And if you work Sunday and you can't rest on Sunday, then pick a different day. But one day a week, we are built by God's design to work 6 days a week with one day of rest. And some of us need a little bit more because we work harder than others, and quite frankly, right? And so we do need to recharge our batteries. I know I've been going full on for for almost 5 years now, and it's tiring. But for me personally, and it's a personal decision for each and every one of us, we still need to plug in, and we have to have that day of rest or that downtime. But the enemy is very clear in what they're going to do. They are not stopping. And they have multiple plans. They have millions of people. They are paying with your own taxpayer-funded dollars, literally illegally, by the way. They're using taxpayer-funded dollars, the Democratic Party, the left, the socialist, the communist, to fund organizations and to pay through these organizations, the protesters and everything, the burning down the streets, the black, all of these entities against you. So we have a huge uphill battle. And it's overwhelming. And that's what they want. They want to overwhelm us with all of this, also social issues like we're seeing at the Olympics, and in our school systems. All of those are social issues, and they're important. Abortion, all of those things are social issues that are important. But America, they are not the issue, and they are not the head of the snake that's going to cause the demise of your life and your children's life, the future of America.
So part of this stuff, Christie, that we see this, and so you talk about there's millions of people that are, that are mobilized against, basically they're mobilized for evil, really. And how do they get ensnared? this is my opinion, how they get ensnared is that they're given a lucrative job with a DOJ, committee, or, somewhere in a federal business or company. And then they don't want to rock the boats because they know that affects their. So now our federal government has become this big, babysitter or provider for all these people. They don't want to mess with their WIC, payments. They don't want to mess with their, their unemployment. They don't want to mess with all these things. So they're just like, we'll just stay down. We'll lay low and just keep taking that government money. And so now, we're really not fighting against people that maybe necessarily believe what the left is pushing, but they just don't know another way to survive sometimes, and they're unwilling to try to step out of that. So I feel sorry for those people. I really do. But I still want, and I still want you. And I'll go back to what you first said. You said we can't wake up some of these people. You can't wake up the sheep, right? But we can wake up the rest of the lions, and you see that meme all over all the time. We're done waking up the sheep. It's time to get the lions engaged, get every lion out there engaged. And we've got lions on here tonight watching us. And we're going to a flag run this weekend out in Tyler, Texas. I haven't been to a flag run in 2 years. I've been under indictment, and I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to get my flags back on my truck and go out and meet people and see people. And I think it's gonna be a great day. But that's how we keep the lions engaged too.
You reminded me of something simple everybody can do who's watching. Everybody in America can do this to show their patriotism for their country. Fly your flags. Go buy flags, American made, built in America flags, not built in China flags, foreign flags. Go and build something in your yard that has this incredible symbolization of America, right? Post the flag. Apple pie Chevrolet. I kind of remember
it's on my head, Christie.
I know. I love that. But you know what? We have to be contagious with this because America, exceptionalism, there's nothing wrong with that. America is the greatest country that has ever been given to this earth behind Israel. We are the most generous, loving, giving country. And big government was never, ever supposed to. Our founding fathers, when they built our this country, this nation, government was supposed to be so small and insignificant.
Yes.
That it just wasn't. We're not supposed to have all of these bureaucratic agencies and all of these. Who are the deep state? The deep state are all of these unelected officials who work inside all of these bureaucratic agencies, who don't get fired, who get shuffled around. And all they have to do is wait out every 4 to 8 years for a president, or they work tandemly with these lifers. Because we're lazy and complacent.
Or they've helped somebody out, and as soon as they lose their DOJ job, they get put on gold
another job. I've seen it all the time in the DOJ.
And it goes back and forth, and so we're fighting against this financial corporations that are fighting against us. They want us all to just be a tax dollar payer. So I wanted to just touch on this scripture that Judy Flatbeard put on here, Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. And so then we've also got Patriot Lab Uncensored on here. Great brother of mine. He's been on our show before. He's a great guy. Been on the trucker convoy. He's great. He's telling you, amen, sister. So people are out there, and we just need to continue to bond together, brand together, pull together, be equally yoked
together. Start a weekly Patriot neighborhood meeting, an old fashioned, bring a potluck supper, break bread together, strategize, plan because let me tell you what's coming, Terry. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't live in fear. Fear is of the devil. God tells us that he is our strength and he will be our protector. But that does not mean that we will not be held accountable for our actions and lack of action. More importantly, we are supposed to do something in this time, I believe. And I believe we are living in end times. What we have to do, let me tell you what's coming. And I don't tell you this for fear. I'm telling you to educate. Because when you're an educated populace, there's power. You have power and strength in education, real education and truth.
Come on.
So Iran and China and in Russia, If you think that all of the war is being held over in Ukraine and Israel and the Middle East, my friends, that could not be further from the truth. And I'm going to give you some sobering facts. And you don't have to take my word for this. You can go in and you can look it up. It's also in some of my high briefed articles that I've written. China has massive footprints. And not only do they have spy bases, they have actual military strongholds and bases in Latin America, Mexico, the Caribbean, Canada. And I'm going to name those places I'm going to give you specifics because most people don't like to give you specifics.
Yeah, come on.
So in Argentina, currently right now, China has a massive, huge facility, both above ground and underground. That facility is under the disguise of a space lab, space research station, and supposedly to look at the stars. There is a massive underground city. The Argentinian people are only allowed to have 10% of access on a yearly basis. So much so that the Argentinians the government is extremely concerned about what's been taking place at this base. It is highly secured. What we believe with satellite imagery, and I'm not going to get into, like I said, DoD space,
Right.
Possible silos. Now let's move to Peru.
Seriously, wait. Back up a second. Argentina, possible silos there.
That's correct.
And we think, and so for our viewers out there that think, this is over the top. Listen,
It's a fact.
you and I have been to the border. So look, if you haven't been to the border, and you haven't seen the truth of what's happening there with the thousands and thousands of Chinese IAs coming across, Chinese, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. I mean, this is not just a Mexican invasion, not just the Mexican people, not just
Mexicans
the Central
are
America.
coming over.
Yeah. And so I believe that the Chinese they're buying land in America. I mean, talk about all the land that they own in America already. Mm-hmm. And we're allowing that. Americans can't buy land in China. How can they buy land here?
Well, and also most people don't understand China anyway, and they don't understand the political climate in China. China, the CCP runs everything, and I do mean everything. Their footprint is in every business, every home in China. They control. Chinese people cannot leave the country of China without the permission of the CCP. So all of these Chinese immigrants,
they've
been allowed to leave the country of China.
I watched that on one of your articles today. It's like people don't leave the CCP. You don't get to just leave and claim asylum. If you left China to claim asylum, that would be. Remember back in the day when somebody escaped China and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this one person or these two people came and they claimed asylum," and it was like, "Oh," and China's like, "No way, dude, that guy got away." Now we're talking hundreds of thousands of Chinese IAs coming over here claiming asylum. This is by design, right?
Well, let's just really quick before I move on to the other imminent threat, clear and present danger. China right now, if you fly into the country of China via aircraft, however you enter into China, they now have a law where they can, as a foreigner, you're a foreigner, they can actually take your phone or any of your electronic devices and confiscate them and download them and access them. So if you think for 1 minute China is not watching you, understanding exactly what's going on and infiltrating into our country, you're naive. We're going to move to Peru. So Peru right now was given there's a $3 billion project by China, and they're building a massive port that is capable of housing both submarines and military warships. They've also had contracts already done, and they're already moving supplies throughout Central and South America. I was just in Central America, by the way. I spent a lot of time to our back door. And through the Belt and Road Initiative, sneakily for the last, decade plus under our noses, even with our federal governments knowing this, they have built infrastructure, supply chain routes, and have brokered deals with the presidents of all of these different countries. And I can name about 8 of them. Again, it's in my high briefing report, and I go into detail, by the way, and what that treaty looks like. Now let's move to Barbados. Barbados, beautiful Caribbean island. I've personally been to Barbados. They've just given Barbados a couple $2 billion. In exchange, they have also a military style camp on the island of Barbados. And on that island, through surveillance, again, silos that can house IBM missiles, which, by the way, can reach the United States in a matter of minutes.
Wow.
Let's move to Cuba. China right now in Cuba has a very highly sophisticated cyber intelligence and spy base in Cuba because, of course, you know, they work with hand in hand the regime down there, right? They're communist. They also, quote unquote, have agricultural property and some other things under that disguise, which of course they do because they're going to need to feed their army. They've done the same thing in Central and South America with farmland and agricultural, so they can feed hundreds of thousands of their military, I believe, troops, and also to control the supply chain routes into the United States to squeeze us and starve us out because most of our stuff comes through the southern border. Jamaica currently, right now, it's already up and operational. China has a massive port in Jamaica, which, by the way, again, is big enough and deep enough to have subs and military warships. Warships from Russia and China have been breezing the coast of Latin America and Central America and in the Caribbean for the last 8 months, but you're not hearing about that in the news. We've had actual warships, submarines, and aircraft buzzing close to our they've been in international waters, but very close to our space.
So we saw some stuff last week in the news about that, about Russia actually doing some naval maneuvers or tactical maneuvers in the Caribbean, right? Very close, right?
They've also been doing them. Both China, unprecedentedly, China and Russia did a collaborative effort off the coast of Alaska just recently, within the last 2 weeks.
So what I want to hear if there's more about this, but all I could sit here while you were talking is I was sitting here taking notes. Argentina, Barbados, Peru, Cuba, Jamaica, all these different ports. This is a global expansion on the part of on the part of China. I almost said Canada. You can see Canada doing.
We're in Canada too, by the way, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah, but so this is global expansion on their part, and you know, so yeah, America's got, you know, ports in different places and stuff like that. And is it any different? Yes, it is different because we're not trying to bomb anybody. We don't want to drop nukes on anybody. We're not putting in silos. So tell me about Canada. What's going on in Canada?
I want to show your listeners this too. This is a map that I don't post very often. So this is the Indo-Pacific region. This is China. Every little red dot you see, that is their strategic posturing and footprint from a military standpoint. That's just in the Indonesian region.
Wow.
Now, I have a map that actually strategically shows the whole world map in the globe of where China is, their power projection, and where they also already currently have. So why is this important? Because China and Russia and Iran are working together. Iran and China are buddy-buddy. And Iran also has working relationships, and they also have troops. They have military equipment inside Central and South America and in Cuba. Bolivia. I'm gonna name names. I'm gonna just tell everybody.
I'm writing about. We're gonna pass it. We want to share this out because this is
Bolivia. Bolivia is a storehouse. I call it the storehouse country. So Bolivia, I believe, and we have the proof that they are storing military grade equipment for Iran, including Mohajar drones. Those are drones that can literally carry huge, large IBM and ballistic missiles, which can reach the United States, again, in a matter of minutes. Tanks. They are jockeying for a little country called Guyana, which is near where Venezuela and Guyana, kind of in Brazil, touch base because of the natural resources that they have there. You know, you have to understand, Venezuela is the conduit for Iran. They're a proxy. They feed the Maduro regime with money and gold and natural resources in exchange for oil, which, by the way, China, Russia, and Iran have been stockpiling oil for their future military operations, because you have to have a whole lot of oil to conduct long-term military operations. While this administration, Harris, so anybody out there who's going to vote for Harris, you're literally voting for your own destruction, because they are against fracking. They are against us being oil independent and rich in our own soil and producing. We have actually gone to a dictatorship, Venezuela, last November, and bought oil from Maduro's regime. This is unprecedented, guys. This is treason as far as I'm concerned, because these people are working with our enemy, Iran. Iran is flying numerous flights a day from Tehran into Caracas, Venezuela, where their military terrorists and their ICE and their Qud forces and their Iran's Revolutionary Guard, they're washing their passports, Terry. And a washed passport, for your listeners who don't know what that is, that's basically they're cleaning their identity and giving them new identities and fingerprints, so they can actually enter our country through these caravans undetected. Not that they need much anyway, because we have such a lax border policy and we're so overworked, we're not vetting anybody anyway. According to their numbers, we have over 3,300 plus terrorists in our country right now, in our country, and they have no idea where they are.
And 13, what are we at? 13, 15, how many million are we at right now?
Well, we're really over 30 million. They'd like you to believe it was 11 to 12. It's really over 30 million.
Right. And that's without the gotaways. That's the documented.
You know, my figures are calculated pretty good with all of the data and the research and the gotaways and all this. It's somewhere upwards of 30 plus million, which means, by the way, we now have over 57 to 70 million. Think about that, illegals in our country.
And they're giving them rights. They're giving them money when they get here. Somebody showed a picture of somebody's Visa gift card it had $15,000 on it given to an IA. I mean,
they're giving all sorts of stuff.
You and I have
vets are starving.
We met on the border. You had an event down there, and that was my first rodeo, and it was great to work with you down there. But after 3 years of being on the border, and now I'm under federal indictment for being on the border, this is one of my great true causes is fighting against what's happening down there. But this has become such a global operation. This isn't just about the cartels. This isn't, we're talking about a global scale invasion of our country, invasion of different ports in the world. From what you're telling me, we're talking all over the world, that these people are coming in and they're setting up identities. They're setting up either a terrorist organization or an in-person army that's going to be there to take over whenever they pull the trigger. And it's scary. It's scary to a level that if people can't see that for what it is, then, God bless you, go, cook your food and live your life and don't look up.
You can stick your head in the sand all you want to. It will be in our streets. Not if, it's when the FBI director, Christopher Wray, which I'm not a fan of, and he is a globalist, when our own director, Christopher Wray, has been to Congress 5 times in public. This is not behind the scenes, which, by the way, a whole lot of meetings take place behind the scenes. But this is somebody who's come out, public statement, said it's imminent. And if you don't understand what the word imminent means, that means it's going to happen. It's not.
Right. And here's this guy, Christopher Wray, who's, as far as I'm concerned, he's a douchebag. Excuse my language. He is. I do not care for the man. Obviously, he's had a lot to do with J6. He's, done some things that I think are totally shady. I think he's part of the overreach of our weaponized alphabet groups, all of that. But if here's this guy saying this is imminent, now, is that another psyops? Is that another, red flag, or is it a black flag? There's so much to talk about.
I can tell you from somebody who plays in this world, and I've been talking about this for well over 2 years leading up to the 2024 presidential election, that it was going to happen on the timing that they needed it for political reasons. October 7th last year, the horrific terrorist act with Hamas and Hezbollah, and all of them are Iran proxies. That is going to be that style terrorist attacks, because they need to put the most fear possible into the American people. And they want to have civil unrest, because even with this coronation of Kamala Harris, she has the worst record. This guy Waltz is a Chinese.
Did you call it the coronation of her?
Coronation of Kamala Harris.
Yeah, let's.
I actually did a brief about this, the silent coup and the coronation of Kamala.
Yes.
And I actually did I sent it to you. I did a deep dive on the players behind all of this and how we got here from 1911 on. And so I really try to educate people because there's not a lot of that really going on out there. How do we get here? And so we have to understand that we've been at war for a very long time. We just haven't realized it. The players behind the scenes, those people who want to have this globalist society, because the big corporations and the banks win the most when there's no borders. And we have to understand that. It's about power, it's about money and control. And it's really that simple. We don't need to overcomplicate this. People like to overcomplicate it. They want complete power control, period. And they want to embolden their pockets, right? The Rockefeller, we could go into all of this. But
let me just interject this. I went to a movie last Sunday night at the Angelica Theater here in Dallas. And this is a documentary that was 2015, talking about just that, the 60 families that control and all that. And the Rockefellers and the money and where it comes from, and now how we have the Vandenberger Group. There's so many different organizations.
Well, BlackRock and Vanguard are huge. They're also connected again with the Rockefellers and all of all of the families.
And so we're fighting against this fight that it's not even. It almost seems insurmountable sometimes, but we can, as the people, take that back. We can. And people are like, it's too big, it's too scary, it's too much, there's all this money. If we all went out on strike one day, 2 days, a week, we just said, we're not going to work, we would shut them down and they would have to come to the table. There's different ways of doing that too. There's so many different, and so many people have brought up so many different strategies to combat this. But number one, and I do want to touch base on a few things. I knew we would have no problem filling up an hour, you and I, Christy. So So thank you for your information about the border and about what's going on with China and the bases around the country. But there's some really other pertinent. You and I haven't talked since Trump was the attempted assassination of Trump. And then now with Kamala Harris being the coup, the silent coup, because that's what we've had 2 coups in 4 years, as far as I'm concerned. We've had 2 coups in 4 years. And so this is the Democratic Party that just illegally said, hey, we're going to force this guy out, which he needed to be forced out, but then we're going to bring this person in and we're going to assign all the delegates that were given to him to her. How does that happen?
It's really interesting too, because the media loves, they tell half truths or they lie flat out, period. Kamala didn't raise, several $100 million, by the way, as soon as she announced it. What it was is it rolled over with the money that was already promised. There was already a promise of money from donors, but they said Biden needed to go after that debate. So we're going to withhold that money until Biden leaves. So it's all of this false propaganda, and people who don't pay attention or look, they're easily led down this primrose path. I hate to say it, but I've said this for a long time. I've talked to my team about this. Biden was nothing but a controlled puppet. And and everyone was like, oh, Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton and throwing, and I said, no, it's going to be Kamala because she can be controlled first and foremost. And it's going to happen in an opportune time. And they were hoping Biden was going to be able to kind of plug along. But unfortunately they couldn't hide his dementia and his just failing.
Can I
anymore.
I want to ask you this though. So how much do you think of that? And I'm going to go down a rabbit hole right now. How much do you think of that was staged? Because then after he supposedly, had that bad, he did have the bad debate, and then his health, and he got COVID, whatever. Again, can't even say COVID on there, but he got sick again. And then 2 days later, he's walking around. He's not decrepit anymore. He's not bent over. It looked like he gained 4 inches. He's not walking like this. He's walking like this.
Mhm.
And so, there has been so much psyops going on in the last 5 years, 6 years. I've never seen anything like it. The attempted assassination on Trump. Let's back up to that.
By the way, so Biden, they have really, really, really good drugs. And so you can tell when he's been freshly pumped full of those drugs versus not. It's just really that simple.
Right.
This nonsense body double crap, whatever. But it's just called good old fashioned, really good drugs being pumped into a system, and adrenaline. The assassination of President Trump, I knew that there was going to be assassination attempt on his life. I'm glad it was thwarted. Not thwarted. It really, God, when I say thwarted, God thwarted the plan. Protected Trump. I firmly believe that this was an inside job, 100%. This is somebody who's worked around military, this kind of operations for a very long time. There is no way. There is zero chance that this was not somewhere, the higher ups coming from the highest level to coordinate this type of assassination, to stand down and put the people in place, the orders that came through, and the lack of experience. I mean, I could just go on. This is not incompetence. Purposeful incompetence is what it is.
Right.
And it came from an order, and it comes from the order at the highest of levels. They failed the assassination attempt of Trump. When I looked at, it's not a coincidence. And people can say, oh, he was just doing an advertising, a small little blurb for BlackRock. Well, in the silent coup, I kind of touch on.
Yeah, Crooks was in there, right?
So there's a lot of questions that I'm not accusing anybody, but I'm saying, stinks to high heaven. I believe with all the information and the data that I have and the testimonies that I've listened to, the only conclusion is that someone gave an order for all of this to happen, this perfect storm to happen, for this person to be able to try to assassinate Trump. And I would venture to say, we need to they're purposely not breaking into his phone. Come on, you can't tell me that the FBI and the CIA, the best cyber people in the world, if they can't break into a 20-something-year-old's phone, an Apple phone, by God, we are in serious trouble. Because
let me ask you this, Christie. What do you think? And I've tried to research this as best I can, and there's been numerous articles on it, and some of them from the left now too. $1.5 million in overseas accounts for this guy.
Yeah.
Have you heard? I mean, what do you think the credibility?
I'm just going to say, just flat out, this was an inside job. I believe, from my professional opinion, this was an inside job, just like JFK was an inside job.
Yeah.
This was today. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make and I hope to God I'm wrong. And I've said this out loud to a couple people. I pray to God that Trump extracts the inner circle snakes that he still has on his team. And he also needs to watch his back, because I believe there possibly might be another scenario where they do it, but it'll be Russian style. And when I say Russian style, and it might be after the election, if they allow him to become president, who knows what their plans are, but I believe that this is what's going to happen. A Russian style assassination attempt, which means by poisoning. And the only way you can poison him is somebody very close, like a Judas, right? The other way is through, they love to explosions. So I pray to God right now that Trump has, and I know he does, he's protected by his angels, but I pray that he literally vets and looks at his team very, very closely that's around him as well.
And he's got, and you're right, because it doesn't even need to be, well, so yeah, in a perfect world for the left or the people that don't want him in, there would be another attempt or, whatever before he was elected. But even after, JFK had already taken office and he was assassinated after. We are living in a world that I can't even describe to my kids, and they're watching this. I've got 21 and 25 and 30-year-old boys, and they're all just like, yeah, Dad, this is messed up. And they've been since the lockdowns happened. They're like, Dad, it's like we're living in a crazy world. These
Mhm.
are my kids. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. That's why I do what I do. And I know this is why you do what you do. And I know this is why a lot of our guests do this. So let me talk to you about this. So Kamala Harris, we know she's a stooge. She's another Biden. She's just a puppet.
Worse.
Yeah. So, but then she brings on Tim Walz, Minnesota governor. He's, allowed, and that's my home state. And I got beef with this dude. He allowed the George Floyd protest to, burn down the city, those streets that I knew, Lake Street, St. Paul, Minneapolis, over the Five Lakes, and I grew up there, and he allowed that. He was one of the worst about lockdowns up there.
It looked like Baghdad. I know somebody who worked security during those times, and believe me, we've been in theater, and I can tell you, he was like, Christie, I've never seen anything like that. He goes, it looked like little Baghdadi. He goes, it was really bad. That city was on fire. He's also the one who did the hotline to spy on your neighbor if they were even walking the dog during COVID. He doesn't believe in your First and Second Amendments, period. And those aren't my words. He's actually said it. He doesn't believe in free speech if he believes that you are giving disinformation or misinformation. Well, who is the disinformation and misinformation police? Who's going to do that? Google? Because we know that they do.
Fact checkers, right?
Right. So you've also, Terry, you've got somebody who's been to China 30 times since the time he was young. He honeymooned with his wife and took a class of children to China, paid for by
Trump?
No, Waltz.
Oh, Waltz. Oh, yeah, there you go. I was like, what are you talking about?
Waltz has been to China. Waltz has been paid by the CCP.
Yeah, and his wife is Chinese, right?
I don't know if his wife is Chinese or not. I just know he became a Chinese sympathizer.
Oh, no, that's not.
He does exchange students and brought exchange students for years to China, telling them, don't be American, don't act American.
So everything I've seen about Waltz is that by Kamala, or the puppet masters behind Kamala, bringing Waltz in, is they're actually just showing, they're like, look, this is what we want. Guess what? This is a progressive liberal Democrat. This is the worst case scenario. And we're going to put this on our ticket. We're not even going to try to hide anymore what we're doing. This is our agenda.
Funny, and this is so Democratic Party. Do you know how many years that they've spent bashing old white men and the white male?
Right.
And who does he pick? An old white male.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The Democratic Party, they don't care about, you're a pawn. Believe me, I understand chess, military chess. In America, you are a pawn in their game.
So what's the solution in this? Against this is, voting, standing up. Because I want to get into one more topic, but let's kind of surmise, and if I can take all of these things into consideration, the border issues, Kamala running, Tim Waltz. How do we as a country stand up against that? Because the next segment's going to be a little more freeform. Let's put it that way.
Everybody out there listening to this, you need to start a relationship with your local sheriffs, and you need to find out, are they constitutional sheriffs? That's one of the first things that you need to do. And you need to not just reach out to them once. You need to be persistent like never before. You need to have weekly or biweekly or monthly meetings with the deputy sheriff, the sheriff's department. You need to know them. They need to know you like the back of their hand. You guys need to be in lockstep. And if he's not a constitutional sheriff, you need to start finding somebody and identifying one, and you need to run them for office, period. That's it. 2, you need to exercise your Second Amendment and your First Amendment. You need to get a plan. You need to I am serious more than, you guys need to show up. You need to show up. It's quite that simple. You think that I know Terry and we both like to be barbecuing in our backyard. The last time I had a nice barbecue with friends in my backyard, it was 5 years ago. You know what? There'll be time for that once we save this country. Get off your butts and do something. You need to, I love England right now. And I'm going to talk about that because I wrote an article about England and their pain. It's America's future. Do you know what they're protesting in Liverpool? By the way, these people mostly are liberal who live in Liverpool. So this idea that this irresponsible globalist idiot, new prime minister of England, comes out and says they're right wingers. No, they are pissed off Englanders who are fed up of illegals and migrants killing their little girls and slashing their throats with machetes or raping them. They're fed up. So they took to the streets and they're protesting. And you have even the MP, a parliamentary member, to tell the country of England, let's do COVID style lockdowns for those who would stand up and speak up against this or go to protest. America, it's time for you to do your First Amendment. You need to protest peacefully, but you need to do it in the droves. You need to show up. And when you're upset about something, you need to voice it. 2, 3, or 4. Now we're on 4. You need to go in person, pick up your neighbors, drive them. What you need to do to take as many people to your polling station and physically vote in person. And you know what I want you to do? Take this little device out, and I want you to take a doggone photo of your vote and your ballot, and then you give it to them. So you can record your ballot, and you have a recording of it. We need to literally take control of our own future. Nobody else is going to do it except for you. But you know what you need to do? You need to find another person, and then you need to find another person and another person and start locking arms. And you need to start doing that. And then that's when our country will be taken back.
So that is the solution. And listen, we've talked about this for 3 years about getting into action, getting off your ass, doing something. Some people can't. You know, I have a friend on here, Judy, and I'm gonna share something about you right now, Judy. And so Judy is she's wheelchair bound. She's got a breathing tank that goes around with her, and she is freaking motivated. She's out there, doing events. I'm going to see her this weekend. Hopefully I'll see her out in Tyler, Texas. But she's motivated, and, and listen, but not everybody can do that. So, all right. So take to the keyboards, do whatever it is.
Right there. You're wrong. Everybody can do that. I know somebody who literally has no money whatsoever. Do you know what he does? To go to every single Reawaken America tour or to every event that he can possibly do or give out flyers. He is everywhere. He has no money, no job, period. He lives off of a little teeny tiny check that is like $500 or $600 a month. He goes and he takes his guitar and he plays and sings at gas stations to earn enough gas money for that day and drives. He even forgoes food so he can put gas in that tank so he can go be a patriot for this country, to fight for this country. You know what? Right. I don't want the excuse anymore.
Right.
You can't. Yeah.
Right.
You know what? And I do get passionate about this because you know what? I wasn't at my sister's. I didn't see my sister literally 6 months prior to her dying. She called me on the road, begging me, crying, when are you coming home? I miss you. I love you. And I said, I'm fighting for this country. I'm fighting for your children and the future. And in tears in my eyes, my sister passed without me spending that last year and a half of her precious time. But you know what I told her? We're going to see each other in heaven. Bull crap. Right. Everybody you can do it. It's a matter whether do you have the balls and the fortitude to fight for your country and the future of this great country. You know what? I stand with the founding fathers. I stand with our military men and women who have fought and died and gave the ultimate sacrifice. You know what? All we're asking you to do is freaking stand up, speak up, show up. So what? Take off a damn day of work. Wow. You know what? Don't go to the store or the movies one time. Okay. We can fight for our country. I'm sorry. This pisses me off. We can fight for our country. You know what?
You're right. And so many oftentimes, Christie,
we're going to live in freedom. And it's really that simple.
So many times I do that. You're right. So many times I do that. I say, look, if you can't do this, be a keyboard warrior. But you're right. Keyboard warriors are not going to get it done. We need to get on the streets, in the streets. If you're in a freaking wheelchair, have somebody push you, and you're right. Because it's too late.
Somebody has no arms, Nick. He has no arms and no legs.
Oh, I know, Nick.
Done more to save children and women from human trafficking and all other things that this guy has done with no arms, no legs.
And souls.
More importantly, souls. So I don't want to hear this excuse. you can, and you know what, Judy, right now, I'm going to pray right now for you in the name of Jesus Christ. I am seeing your tank and your oxygen. You're going to need it less and less, my friend, because you've been faithful and God sees that. And he just put it on my heart to give you hope that you're not going to have to live with that breathing tube all the time, because you're a warrior and he loves you and he loves your heart. And you know what? You're sacrificing and he sees that sacrifice. Thank you so much for what you're doing and showing up. Don't think for 1 minute, anybody out there, that just showing up to event that you're not making an impact. By golly, everybody, when you show up and you decide to do something, whether you think it's little or small or big, it's all equal in God's eyes. And it is huge for this kingdom right now and to save our country.
Judy, did you hear that prayer? And if you did, acknowledge that you did and receive that in Christ's name for me, sister, because that's awesome. I'm going to dig into one last thing, and we can go over if we need to, Christie. I'm having such a blast with you. Now, this one here, because WFFA, Women Fighting for America, and you've been on the border, you're fighting for America, and for you, that's looked like a lot of, oh my gosh, let me put this up here. This is going to make you cry, Christie.
Judy, my friend, you are a warrior. Love you. Wipe those tears. Those tears, God sees them, and he's turning them into your strength.
I can't wait to see you this weekend, Judy, and give you a big hug.
You know, Terry, I haven't just been at the border. I've been in hell. I've been in the stash houses. I've seen dead bodies. I have videos and bodies and all sorts of stuff on my phone. We've rescued we've done it, all sorts of stuff. I've had cartels point guns at me. I've got a bounty on my head. I don't really care. You know why? Because I fight for you. I fight for this country. I fight for the future, and I fight for the children. And not everybody's built like me, and not everybody's called to do what you're doing or what I'm doing, but everybody's called to do something.
So, and that's why we've been such good buddies, Christie. I've been, ever since I met you, I was like, this guy had never done anything. I'm on the border. I'm down there in Laredo because Troy Jackson said, go to the border, look up Sandra Whitten. Sandra Whitten, I love you. Says she took all day, showed me up and down the border, Roma, from Laredo to the other side, showed me everything that was going on. I'm like, oh my God, this is a tragedy down here. And so after that, I'm down there on the border. I get a call from Jen America. Jen says, hey, Christie said, she's looking for somebody down there. I happen to be there right when you're down there. Can you help? I said, yeah, we can put something together. We'll help. And we did. And ever since then, we've been just lifelong partners and friends. And it's been amazing. Now, I want to dig into something real quick. We can go over if we want, because look at this is the absurdity of our world right now. So we're going to talk about the Olympics, and we're going to talk about, number one, the blasphemy of the skit depicting the Lord's Prayer with perversion and cross-dressers and everything else, and they can say whatever they want, that it wasn't that, and blah 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 blah. But the symmetry and the visual of it, what you saw. Yeah, it was what it was. You knew what it was. And then there's been other stories come out that was the name of the skit in France, was the depiction of the Lord Supper, And so we know that they were lying about that. We know that was put out there. Now they're all backpedaling, saying, hey, it didn't mean to be that way. So that's one topic. And I want you to speak on that. But what I really want you to speak on, because you're an advocate for women, and we're seeing so much more. One of the favorite things I do on Facebook is Brittany Griner, and I put dude, and I show her with her shirt off, or him with his shirt off, and that it's a dude. And now we've got the American rugby team has a man on their rugby team, and shame on you, America, for that. We've got two boxers beating the shit out of women on the biggest stage for sports in the world, beating the shit out of women. And now these two men are now competing for the gold medal for women's boxing. This is the emperor's new clothes. If we can't talk about this and call it for what it is, then we are doomed as a nation. We're doomed as a world.
Well, evil we're in a battle against good and evil. It's really that simple. And as we get closer and closer, Satan knows that he has a destiny that he can't turn back from. It's going to happen. And so he's going to do everything he can to burn us down in the world, right? And so the blasphemous, disgusting, vile display, mocking, and I didn't take it as, yeah, they were mocking Christians and Catholics all over the world. More importantly, woe to those who mock Jesus Christ and God, because the wrath that God will lay on those individuals, anybody and everybody who was part of that despicable, vile, disgusting, perverted display. One of the guys, his balls or penis it was pretty much hanging out of his shorts. I was noticing that it was, the children are watching this. This is disgusting. It was purposeful. And it was to evoke, again, outrage, because they want to keep poking and poking to make us so mad that we are going to take extreme measures, right? Because that's what they want. Right. The women's sport. So individuals who have what we consider handicaps, right? We have gone out of our way to make sure that they have equal rights to be able to play in sports and to participate. But to participate with like-minded individuals so nobody else gets hurt. We don't want them to be hurt, right? So it wouldn't be fair for somebody who has no arms, but in a wheelchair participating in sport, to be with somebody who has full arms and legs, which can hurt them.
Great point.
So Paralympics was created. They could create Olympics for the individuals who, whatever day, by the blow of the wind or not the blow of the wind, who identify of whatever gender you feel like identifying with, or transgender or transvestite, whatever you want to call yourself. And you guys could have your own sports and you can compete against each other, because that would be fair, right?
Right.
They know this. They know they could have done this, but they choose not to. And I say that again, this is part of the globalist plan to wreak havoc, civil unrest, right? A non-civil society.
Do you think, Christie, it's just that? And I understand that. And I love that point. But do you think it's that, or do you think this is a continuing degradation of man's roles, the nuclear of family, women's roles, and feminizing men across? I mean, because that's what we're doing. We're either feminizing.
I maybe a small portion of that there is, taking away identity. It's about identity. And to be honest with you, Terry, I don't think it's about that. It's about identity. So when you don't have identity and you have your identity can sway depending on how you feel. You have no foundation. You have zero foundation. And so again, it's a you have to think about this as a war and a chess game. And they utilize emotional issues. They utilize civil issues, whether it's CRT in school, the transgender. This is all on. And so we have to understand that they want this controversy. And another reason is, when you don't have identity, you can fall for anything, right? You've heard that old adage. But
can't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
You'll fall for anything, right? And it's like, and if you attack these individuals, you're the bigot, you're the racist, so they can start labeling you. And then, of course, you're an extremist. Then that goes into, that's hate, right? So now we can arrest you or give you a bad social score, which that's coming. It's all part of this bigger spider web. But most people don't see it because they don't swim in the battlefield, right? They don't swim in military operations and war games. And so those individuals who do, most of us get it. And we understand that this is a 40,000 foot broader picture than what you guys are. It's being simplified, but it's really not simplified.
So all this stuff that's going on though. All right. So Riley Gaines is one of my heroes. I love that chick. she says, what is her? They got that swimsuit that they wear, and down on their lower part of their swimsuit it says "not a dude." And so, embrace who you are. Be who you are, right? I mean, if you're a man, be a man. If you're a woman, be a woman. If you're transgender, be a transgender. Don't go fight against women, Don't go, and if you're a woman, don't go fight against some man. If you're transgender, the other way it goes around. This is the upside. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. It's just like, come on, Jesus, just come take this right now. But we can stand up against this.
We can.
Yeah.
You turn it off. Stop following. Don't buy the merchandise.
Exactly.
Turn off the program.
Just like I did with NFL, just like we talked about earlier. I don't watch the Olympics. The only thing I see on the Olympics is memes that come across or little feeds that come across on Facebook. I have not once turned it on. I have no intention to turn it on. And hopefully they get hurt in the pocketbook, and that's how we've been able to, have our voice heard with some other corporations, Budweiser, some of these other corporations. We've been able to have our voice heard that way. So there is a civil way to do that. You just stop spending money with them.
Don't buy products of companies that are supporting the Olympics. I mean, there's so many things. Just, you know what? Look at the companies who are funding the demise of our country. Stop buying those products. I haven't drank a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or any soda pop. Probably, I don't know. It's probably been 5 years. I don't drink Budweiser products, all of their products, because it's not just Budweiser, right?
There's so many, right?
So, again, it might be inconvenient for you, but it's time to be inconvenienced for our country and the future of our country.
It is. Well, Christie, we are about at the top. We're past the top of the hour. I want to especially thank you for taking the time. We didn't have our co-host on tonight. It was just me and you. We talked about this before the meeting. We knew that we would have plenty to talk about. We did. Matter of fact, we went over. You are such a wealth of information about some of this stuff that if you guys want to find out more about Christie, go to wffa.win. And Christie's organization is out there. Christie has been battling it out for 5+ years. I've seen her personally battling it out. I've seen her videos. I've watched her on the border. I've watched her put herself in harm's way time and time again. And there's times that there's many, many more times that you've done it that I haven't seen because it's covert. And I'm proud of you. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm so grateful to have you on. If there's anything we can do to help you, wffa.win, Christie Hutcherson, check her out, guys. She is the real deal. That's why we have her on the Real Deal broadcast. We love you, sister. And I'm going to close out with our music. Anything else you want to close out and say before we close?
Please do something for America before it's too late. God bless you, each and every one of you, and God bless this great country while she's still here.
I got to get a little music going here, but thank you again, Christie. All right, guys, listen. Real Deal broadcast Thursday night, 6 o'clock p.m. Central. We're here. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Great guest as usual. Thank you for everything you do. Love you. We'll see y'all next week. Okay?